again. Alright, so in today's video I want to come live and explain to us how to draft an English trouser. Now I have gotten several requests and several comments on my previous video on how to draft an English trouser. So here I deem it fit to come to explain to us how we can go drafting this English trouser. So if you are watching, kindly drop your questions. I'll attend to them and answer you. So this is a live video, so you watch me live on how to do this. Now the first thing we need to do here is to mark out the baselines. Mark out these baselines. Now these baselines are not straight enough, so because of the fabric I folded, so I needed to cut them off from here. So I will place my ruler this way, and then I will mark out a straight baseline, which is the first thing you need to do before you can start applying any measurements. Then after that, the next thing you will do as well is to mark out the side lines as well. So because of how these fabrics are positioned, so we are going to cut out from here. I laid several fabrics underneath for us to have perfect cutting. Please bear in mind that these fabrics are owned by one person, so that is the reason I am using one, placing them together to draft, right? But if you are cutting for different people, kindly cut them one after the other. So if you're hearing me, if you're watching, kindly drop a comment and let me know where you need more explanations on. So I'll be going through the comments while I do the illustrations as well. I don't know if my voice is audible enough. If it's audible enough, kindly drop a comment and let me know you are watching. So the first thing you will do here is to, after you have marked out your baselines, which is very important, then you have to mark 2 inches here for your baseline, for your hemline, that's for folding, 2 inches, right? For all adults English trousers. For kids, you can use 1.5. So if you find it interesting, this is how you go about it. So this is a hemline of 2 inches this way. And then after this, the next thing to do is to impute your client's length of trouser, right? So the length we have here is a length of 40 and half. 40 and half. So this is 40 and half. You mark this way. Now, most people do ask me, don't I reduce or deduct the band measurement on the trouser? Now, because of the way I cut, I don't need to deduct or mark out or remove the band length. The reason for this is because I will slope this trouser by half an inch, and I will also sew by half. So invariably, the reduction I am doing comes from the slanting and the sewing allowance, which still boils down to removing 1 inch from the total length of the trouser, right? So now, once you know this, you don't need to reduce any inch here. All you need to do is to maintain the same length you have to draft, right? So you mark 40 and a half this way, then mark it 2 times. Now the reason to mark it 2 times is to make sure you get a straight line at the waist area. So you mark it here. Please note that this tutorial I'm doing is to clarify every question that you might be having on how to draft a standard English trouser. So you just need to pay attention to it and watch the very end. Now the next how I'm doing here is to get my crotch. So from the measurement they gave me, the hip is 42. So divided by 4, you have 10.5. And I remembered in my previous video I explained to you guys that the best way to get your crotch depth is to divide your hip by 4. There are 3 to 4 methods of getting the crouch, but I will not go into that for now, so that we'll have a fast learning. So divide hip by 4, you have 10.5. So you will mark 10.5 here for your crouch depth. You will mark 10.5 here for your crouch depth. Once you mark it, this is what you will have. 10.5 this way. And then to get your knee point, now you have 2 methods or 2 ways to get your knee point. Your knee point could be gotten by measuring from the waistline, measure 21 inches or 22 inches to get your knee point, right? But then the easiest way to get your knee point for formula's sake is by measuring from your crouch depth to your ankle line, which is 30 or 29 thereabout, roughly 30, right? Divide by 2, you have 15, minus 3, you have 12. So here becomes my knee line. So this is the perfect way to get your customer's knee point when you are working for his knee. If you did not measure, use this method to get it. So my knee point is here. So it gives me this point as my knee location. Then after you must have done this, the next thing you will do here now is to get your gradient line. Now your gradient line simply means the center of this trouser panel, right? And bear in mind that we are trying to make this trouser drafting in a way that every measurement will be distributed properly. It must be at the center point. So if you have a desire to learn how to draft trouser perfectly, please, this video is for you, right? It's for you. It will go a long way to guide you and give you that understanding you crave for all this while. So now the hip you have is a hip of 42, which is 10.5 if you divide by 4. So you mark 10.5 here, this way, and then extra what? 2 inches. Now these 2 inches you are marking is a constant. You must put 2 inches extra after marking your hip by 4. Now let me further explain to you guys why I use hip on the crotch depth as against some people use laps. Now the reason for that is that for every perfect measurement, your hips over 4 plus extra 2 must be equal or greater than your lap measurement divided by 2, right? So if you have that issue of using lap or hip on the crouch, this explanation now has gone a long way to clarify you on how to go about it. Now, after this, the next thing to do now is to cross-check your lap measurement. If your lap is inside this measurement of hip over 4 plus extra 2. So the lap they gave us is a lap of 23. So divided by 2, you have it to be 11.5. So which means that the lap is secure, is safe inside the hip over 4 plus extra 2 inches, right? So what happens when you mark your hip measurements over 4 and come to cross-check your lap, and your lap is now bigger than the lap of the hip of the client plus 2? In this case, you have 2 options to correct this. It is either your hip is wrong or your lap is wrong as well. So you now cross-check the one that you feel that gives you a more perfect result than the other. So the one that you think is good enough is the one that you are going to use. So in this case, the both of them corresponds. That means the lap should be inside the hip over 4, because on no account should your lap be bigger than your hip over 4 plus extra 2 inches. Having known that, then the next thing to do now is to get the midpoint of this whole distance, which forms the gradient line. I hope you can hear me. Please, if you can hear me, drop a comment, tell me you are hearing me, for me to know that you are hearing my audio loud and clear. So after this, the next to do now is to measure from the extra 2 inches here, and then get the total distance from here, which is 12.5. Remember, it was 10.5 for 42, then plus extra 2, that's 12.5. So the middle of 12 is 6, and the middle of half is 2.5. So that means the center of this distance is 6.25. So you mark it here, 6.25 at this point, right? So this measurement, the middle point is what you will take all through down to the knee line and to the ankle line. Do you understand? Right? So now, all right, thank you. You said you can hear me, Princess. Yeah, thank you for the comment. So I can go ahead to explain. So now, once you have gotten the middle point, which is 6.25, remember that this value differs in accordance to your hip measurement you applied, right? It mustn't be 6.25 for everybody, but someone that his hip is 42 plus extra 2 must give you 6.25, right? So having known that, now the next thing to do is to take that same measurement you applied here and also apply it on the knee line, which is still 6.25. You also mark in this form, right? And also mark it again at the ankle line, which is 6.25 again. So you make these markings in these directions for you to connect the line to have a straight line as well. All right, the shady clothing, Justice. Okay, all right, you're watching. You said loud and clear. Thank you, bro. All right, so nice. My voice is loud and clear because I don't trust MTN network this period. They can use my voice when I'm trying to explain all these things to you guys. All right, thanks for watching. Please kindly share the video, so that it can reach more people whom are interested to learn. Please just help me and share this video to your Facebook timeline. Share it to any social media platform you are in, so for others to be able to join us to learn. So you connect this line in this form, connect the line in this form. So this connection you are doing now is now the center of the front panel. Do you understand? So every measurement that you are going to apply will be applied on both ends. So this gives you the new point where you will focus on, right? So now the knee measurement we have here is a knee of 17. Before, normally, if this line wasn't here, what we would have done now is to divide the knee by 2, which is the standard way we divide our knee. But in this case, you have to divide the knee by 4 because of the fact that there is a gradient line at the middle trying to demarcate these measurements into 2 equal parts for the front and also 2 again for the back, making it to be 4 division. So now you would have marked 17 from here, normally before, if we were using the normal Ankara method or the simple line method to draft our trouser. But because we are looking for perfection, we are looking for a trouser that will not have too much curve here. Because if you have a too much curvy nature here, it will make the inseam, the inner leg, to be going up or to be dragging up. It will not relax because of the curvy nature that will go all through here. Because you and I will know that if you mark 17 from here, the curve here will be much, right? It will be like it's kind of in a too much curvy form, and which will make here to be stretchy, and it will affect the inner leg of this trouser to be going up often because of the fact that the curve here was much. So that is the reason I use this method to explain in very good details on how to draft a proper English trouser. This gives you room to eliminate any error or potential errors that might come through on your trouser, right? So now the knee I told us they gave us was 17, right? So divide 17 by 2, you have 8.5. Divide by 2 again, you have 4.25. That means you will mark 4.25 on both ends. You get? Now, on marking this, don't forget that by the virtue of weaving, you have to weave the trouser, right? That weaving will, reduce or chop off some ends of this fabric, especially if you weave before sewing. This is when you need to add weaving allowance on this panel. Bear in mind that this allowance I am adding now is not the sewing allowance. The allowance we will use to sew this trouser will come from the back, right? So when you have known this, and done this, the next thing to do here is to add half an inch on both ends. So here, instead of marking 8.5 like normally, we will use 9, that's 18. That means I've added half inch on both ends, that making it to be 18. So I will now mark 4.5 here, and that's 9, that's 4.5 as well here, that's 18 knee. So by the time I weave, even if I remove half inch here, my 17 is still intact. Do you understand? All right. So now you have known this. So I will mark 4.5 here and also 4.5 here as well. That's giving me 9 inch. That's 18 here, right, on the knee. So the knee is settled. Now the next we are going to apply is our ankle. Ankle is 13. So 13 divided by 2 is 6.5. So divided by 2 again is 3.25. The same procedure we underwent to add half an inch. That's mark it to be 3.5 inch here, 7 inches. That's 3.5 as well, 7, right? So we have extra 1 inch here. So the weaving and everything will not reduce this inch to 6.5. Do you understand? You just need little allowances on these areas. So when you have done this, now the next thing to do now is to connect the lines. Now the line connection is also one of the major parts or major process of doing this, because if you don't know how to connect the lines, you will still have a little bit confusion on how to go about it. So now you have to bring this line on the ankle, come up straight. Now ignore the knee first. Just ignore this knee, ignore the knee point. Just bring the ankle line, make sure it's straight enough. Come up straight, like let's say 10 inches high or thereabout. Then come up straight as well, let's say 10 inches high or thereabout, right? So make sure it comes up in these two forms. Then after you have done this, the next you will do now is to bring your hip curve and then place in a form that the knee and the ankle line that's coming up will connect in a very perfect manner, right? So you connect from here all through this way, connect from here all through this way. Make sure the line is properly connected. Then after this, you also go ahead to connect this one as well in this form. Make sure the line is also properly connected in this form. You see how the line connections are going, right? Then after this, the next you will do now is to turn your hip curve to come in this form, this way, and then you connect from here all through to this very point. You see how the connection is. Now bear in mind that there should never be a sharp bend. The bends should be synchronized in a way that the connection will go perfectly. Then you also connect this one in this form, connect it as well in this form, and that will be how the connections will go, right? Then after this, the next thing you are going to do here now is to apply your waist measurement. Now if you notice, I did not bring this center line to the waist. Now this center line will be brought to the waist only when we are making a female trouser. That is when we have shaping at the sides. So for all adults or men trousers, you don't bring this line to the waist. You only start making your waist from the waist point here. And the waist we have is 32 divided by 4, you have 8, right? So I will mark it this way, and then extra 1 inch is all you need on your waistline. After which, connect the 1 inch to your hip measurement, go in this form, this way, and then after that, come down by half an inch, that's 0.5 in this form, and slope. Then in sloping, you don't slope up to the end of the waistline here. No. you have to slope somewhere at the midpoint, a bit after the midpoint of the trouser, right? So and it should be in a curvy form. Using a straight line ruler to slope is still okay, but it's not professional. Your slope should be curvy in order to accommodate the tummy bulge, but not too curvy, right? A little bit curvy this way. You just curve it up somewhere to this point. Then after that, the next thing you do now is to come up here by 2 inches. Now these 2 inches you're marking now is what they call the hip point. The hip point, because the crouch is 2 inches below the hip. So this is the crotch depth and this is the hip point. Now normally, if you watch other illustrations somewhere online or somehow any other place, you will see a line that comes up somewhere at this point, which is still okay. But since the hip does not have much thing to do here, I just mark it on the line that comes down from the waist to the crotch line, right? So just make a mark there, and then from here you will mark 0.5, which is half an inch you will use, to connect. So with the help of your pattern master, now remember that we have tools you must have in your place for you to be able to draft these trousers in a way that pleases God. Right? You need to have these tools so that your drafting will come out nicely. So now, all right, Joe, thank you. Yeah, from Ghana. All right, you're welcome, right? You're welcome, bro. So now from here, you go down by 7 inches for your pocket depth. Now this pocket depth is the range or the standard measurement. You only increase this when you are having a bigger person, like 50 hip or thereabout. Maybe make it 7.5 or 8, fine. But for normal sizes, 7 inches is ideal. And the width here for the pocket up is 2.5. So you mark 2.5 in this form. And with this, you are through with drafting the front panel of your trouser, right? So I don't know if you have any question, so you can drop your questions before I start cutting. Let me know if you have any concern or where you think I should explain more. So I'm waiting for your questions. If you have any question, please write it down and drop. If you don't have, tell me to go ahead to cut so that we will learn how to also do the back. So please drop your questions as fast as possible. So I will go ahead to explain before we start drafting the back panel. I am waiting for your question. If you have, drop. If you don't have, just comment, go ahead, or tell me it's clear so that I will know that what I explained for you guys is clear enough for us to know the next thing to do. All right, so while we wait for the question, this is a basic way to draft your English trouser, and I know you will have a lot of knowledge here to learn. All right, so watching from, okay, you're welcome. Yvonne, you're welcome. All right, so why cutting? Because of the fact that I laid a lot of 5 fabrics here, it might be difficult for my scissors to cut, but I will take my time gradually. Like I said, I laid them because one person owns the 5 of the fabrics. So in order to save time, I laid them at once and cut all of them at once. So this is how I cut. You can get your industrial electric scissors to cut this if you have one. If you don't have one, you can go ahead to use your manual, your normal scissors to cut as well, right? So I will take my time to cut while I wait for your questions, if you have any. So also watch how I cut, because you might still mark all of this and still have errors in cutting. So I like cutting outside the line where I chopped, in order to retain the same drafting. I don't cut inside the line, I cut outside the line, just in this form I am explaining to you now. So I am cutting them in layers so that I will be able to carry the whole layers one after the other. So cut out all of this in this form. So I have cut the first 3. So let me cut the last 2. The scissors is not that sharp. So guys, if you have a question, please drop the question while I cut the front panel. I'll also show you guys how to cut the back. So this method is a very simple and a more professional way to draft your English trouser. And bear in mind that even if you know another method out there, I'm not trying to discard or to discredit any method out there. I'm only showing you guys how I do mine. So if you find it interesting, try it out. But if you have some concerns on some doubts on this, there's no problem. You can make do with whatever you know already. So it's not good as well to compare 2 methods, because every method has its own pros and cons, right? Okay, somebody is asking how many inches is the crotch depth from the waist. All right, so the formula to get the crotch depth from the waist is simply by dividing your hip measurement by 4. So if you had joined us from the beginning, you will have had, you will have had when I said divide your hip by 4. So the hip we have is 42. So when I did by 4, I have it to be 10.5. So I measured 10.5 from the waistline this way. The waistline 10.5 from here to this point. That's 10.5 for this particular person's trouser. Be in mind that the crotch depth is not constant. The crotch depth varies in accordance to your client's your client's size, right? Your client's measurement. So I have a video I made some time ago on how to get the crotch. Maybe after this live, I will copy the link and drop for you guys in the comment section of this video, so you might go and watch it as well to understand how the crotch is being calculated. But to answer you, you have to divide your hip by 4 and add mark from the waistline with the answer you got. So there are other ways as well to get the crotch, which is by measurement, by dividing the customer's length of trouser by 4, and by upright sitting position, which simply means your client will sit on a chair. You measure from his waistline to the base of the chair. The distance there will be the crotch measurement, right?